Today, BKFC has signed the GOAT, Mike Perry, to yet another bare-knuckle brawl. Also, Claressa Shields wants a piece of Cyborg in a boxing ring. And what about Ryan Garcia, who also wants a piece of an MMA fighter in a boxing ring? And that fighter's name is Sugar Sean O'Malley. Plus, is he bumping his gums about what happened between him, Dricus Duplessis, and UFC 300? All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back in it. Your boy Matt bringing you the latest in MMA news today. So we're going to get off into a few things. Let's start out at the top. Let's start with BKFC and Mike Perry. BKFC and Mike Perry are linking up once again for another bare-knuckle fight. This time, Mike Perry steps into the bare-knuckle ring with Thiago Alves. Okay, it's a fight that we never thought that we needed or ever thought about even seeing. But now that it's in our face, I don't know. It might be pretty good, you know what I'm saying? Anytime Mike Perry steps into a bare-knuckle ring, it's usually fairly entertaining, all right? Usually the build-up is fairly entertaining. Usually the fight itself is pretty entertaining. And, back in the day, the Pitbull, the original Pitbull, Thiago Alves, he was that dude back in the day, you know what I'm saying? For a very, very short period of time till GSP came through and ended all dreams and hopes. But before then, Thiago was kind of that dude. He always could crack. He always had power. So if he's been training in bare knuckle, it should be pretty interesting to see. Nevertheless, Mike Perry, BKFC, usually is always going to be appointment viewing to a certain extent. So let's move on from there. Kind of keeping along in the same vein of boxing. Let's move over to Claressa Shields, who was being interviewed by Ariel Helwani yesterday on the MMA Hour, talking about her feud, so to speak, or her war of words with Cyborg. So here's the thing. I remember back in the day, Cyborg and Claressa Shields being friends, right? This is when Cyborg was dominating in the UFC. And I remember these two were friends, and, the UFC, just the same way that Claressa was talking about, they would pump out, footage of these two sparring. They tried to find the few seconds that Cyborg was doing pretty good, and they would put that out oh, Cyborg holding her own against Claressa Shields. And it was bruh, okay. So I felt Claressa Shields when she was talking about that's what the UFC did. They tried to find a couple of moments where she looked all right and put it out there like she was holding her own against Claressa Shields. But I remember the two of them being friends. And I remember when Cyborg was about to fight Amanda Nunes, Claressa Shields was helping her train. But it was a weird thing because I remember these two being friends, being cool. It was in the lead up to the Amanda Nunes fight. And Claressa Shields was kind of saying all these different things that, Cyborg was going to win and everything. And then I remember when Cyborg got washed by Amanda Nunes, they showed this little brief clip of footage of Claressa Shields talking to Cyborg after the fight. And as she does, she was going in on Cyborg. She was like, "What were you doing? That wasn't anything that we practiced when we were, doing your training for boxing. What were you doing? That's not how you fight. You went in there angry and rushed it, trying to knock her out, and you got laid out. That's not what we worked on." So I do believe at some point in time these two were probably fairly close as far as training partners go. So now from the looks of the Ariel Helwani interview, looks like there was a breakdown in communication between Claressa Shields, Cyborg, and Cyborg's fiance, who handles a lot of her social media, which is what Ariel was trying to explain to Claressa when Claressa was like, I don't understand why Cyborg is so nice one minute, and the next minute she's calling me out and everything, and Ariel was like, yo, like, when she's nice, you're talking to the real Cyborg. When she's aggressive and she's trying to pick a fight with you, you're talking with her fiance, who is like kind of like her manager, handles a lot of her affairs, and homie, he's just trying to set up a fight. So I found that to be very, very interesting when it was all put out there, because Claressa Shields was like, ow, you know what I'm saying? She's like, she even called him out. She's like, are you talking about Ray? And it was just like, bro, that was funny to me, because I'm like, bro, Claressa Shields gives no F's. And she's just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Nevertheless, once again, how many times is PFL going to drop the ball? PFL, you already lost Kayla Harrison, okay? We never got to see Kayla Harrison versus Cyborg. PFL, just don't sign a mixed martial arts bout where Claressa Shields is going to go out there and get washed. You know, like, don't do that. Sign something that might be, you know, here's the thing. If they do a boxing match, Claressa Shields is going to go out there and wash Cyborg. So I guess now that I'm saying that, there's probably no equal ground, because Cyborg has done boxing in the past, but only a few boxing matches, the same way Claressa Shields has only had a few MMA fights. So I don't know which type of fight they should be in, MMA or boxing, but PFL, take this time to capitalize on that heat right there. Whatever friction exists between these two female fighters, take the time to capitalize on that so people actually want to see something from your promotion. Don't just let this go away and it's 2025 and you're like, well, we tried to make the fight between Cyborg and Claressa Shields, but bro, work on it right now. Figure out if it's going to be MMA or boxing. Work on it. I'm not saying this is a huge fight that anybody really cares about seeing, but PFL, y'all got to work with what you can. You know what I'm saying? Like, bruh, like, you got to work with whatever you can get. And if what you're getting right now, as far as beef, is Cyborg versus Claressa Shields, you need to work with it, is all I'm saying. Anyway, let's move on. So moving on from there, how about Israel Adesanya coming out in an interview talking about why he's not going to be at UFC 300 versus Dricus du Plessis? Here's the thing. So Izzy says in an interview that, you know, he kept saying, I was summoned by the UFC for 300. I was summoned. Bro, shut up, bro. Nobody summoned you, bro. They text you or they called you, all right? Talking about you were summoned. Like, bro, quit trying to... Look. You know, I mean, I know Izzy is important to the UFC, but quit trying to act like you more important than what you really are. Talking about you were summoned. You got a phone call from Sean Shelby, Hunter Campbell, or Dana White about coming to UFC 300. Like, let's get to the point. Nevertheless, Izzy said that he was summoned to fight it at UFC 300 against Dricus du Plessis, but Dricus' side, or Dricus' camp, declined having that fight. And so, you know, Izzy's putting all of that out there and, you know, kind of putting all of the fault and the blame on Dricus, as if Izzy hasn't dodged a couple of fights in the last few years. But nevertheless, man, I'm not even really going to come down on Izzy for this, and I'm not really worried about Dricus. I mean, Dricus clearly looked like he had a tough fight against Sean Strickland. Just because there are fighters like Israel Adesanya that have gone into fights injured to defend their title, quit comparing that to what Dricus du Plessis might do. For one, Izzy is by far, outside of Anderson Silva, possibly or probably the greatest middleweight fighter of all time. You know what I'm saying? It's not like Izzy going into a fight with Paulo Costa with an injury, Or is he going into a fight with Yoel Romero with an injury? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're talking about one of the consensus greatest fighters of all time in a weight class. So, yeah, I can understand why Dricus, both times they tried to make that fight, wants to make sure he's 100% before going in the octagon with Israel Adesanya. But here's my point for even bringing up this topic. What happened to the days when fighters just kept all that low key? Like, these new age fighters, bro, they cannot wait to be all gossipy. You know, they on their front porch, can't wait to talk about the ins and outs of making the fights and who pulled out and who was injured and who was scared and all this. Look, bro, stop doing that. Like, it's becoming increasingly more and more annoying when a lot of fighters choose to throw out all the inside outs and the inner workings of the UFC or whatever promotion trying to create a fight. And, you know, putting out there, oh, this guy, he wasn't ready, or this guy wanted more money, or this guy wanted this. It's like, and they're only doing that as a way so they themselves don't look bad for the fight not happening. Like, you can't say I didn't try to make the fight with Dricus. It was his side. Dude, just say, yeah, you know, we tried to make the fight. The fight couldn't happen. It is what it is. And move on. Like, there's so many MMA fighters now. They're always trying to pull out, you know, what happened when Dana White was trying to make this fight and who was going to be paid this and what precautions did they want and what terms did they want to fight on. And it's like, look, dude, save all that for boxing. Because in boxing, they can negotiate down to the types of gloves they're going to have on, the material of the glove. They can negotiate everything. The size of the gloves. I mean, you know, they can literally negotiate so many things. What you have to weigh, not only at the weigh-in, but 24 hours after the weigh-in. What you have to weigh at fight night. What type of testing is going to go on. They can negotiate all of this. In mixed martial arts, bro, the fighters try to make it out like there's a ton of things that they have to go through or, you know, fix, so to speak, for a fight to happen. Like a ton of things they can negotiate. Bro, you ain't got no whole lot to negotiate, all right? Quit lying. You ain't got no whole lot to negotiate. Dana's got all of this sold up, locked and key. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no whole lot you getting ready to negotiate. You know what I'm saying? You're just not. And they always try to act like, you know, trying to get more money out of this. Yeah, they give you a little bit more money based out of main events and short notice fights and so on and so forth for getting you to renegotiate, sign a new deal. But at the same time, you ain't getting that much more. You know what I'm saying? It's still a bonus within reason. You know what I'm saying? You ain't getting that much more. Like, so quit putting out all of that, because as the public, you don't really know if Izzy's telling the truth. You don't know if Dricus is telling the truth. You don't know who's lying. You don't know who's saying what. So why even put it all out there, bro? Just keep it simple. We tried to make the fight. It couldn't happen. You know, it was a little bit more on that side, whatever. But yeah. But, you know, hopefully we gonna fight in the future. If you dislike each other, you can still talk trash to each other. But the inner workings of the negotiations, quit putting that out. Chael Sonnen has been telling you fighters not to put that information out for years, because it messes you up in your next negotiation with the UFC, because the UFC is like, bro, why'd you go around and tell everyone we was going to put yellow M&Ms in your dressing room? Now every fighter wants yellow M&Ms in their dressing room. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be telling all the secrets. You know what I'm saying? Now, with all that being said, this is Israel Adesanya. He can tell whatever he wants about negotiations, and the UFC is still going to do what they need to do to get him in the octagon, so to speak. Because you see what's going on with Conor McGregor, and, you know, clearly it will be big business for him to fight for the UFC, but the UFC just keeps stringing him along. So, you know, you're going to have to play ball with the UFC on some level in these negotiations, because otherwise, you know, All I'm saying is Conor would have already been fought. Conor would have been fought 12 times by now if the UFC could have it their way. I take it that Conor is trying to negotiate something that the UFC's like, nah, bro, nah, little bro, we not doing all of that. We'll let you put proper 12 on the octagon. We'll let you do this. We'll let you do that. But some things you got to meet us. So I just thought that was extremely weird. I thought that was strange that all of these fighters keep putting all of these inner workings of, trying to form these fights, make them pull together. I just thought that was strange. Outside of that, jumping over to one other boxing / MMA fight, Ryan Garcia is continuing to talk crazy. I don't know if you would say he's calling him out, because I don't know if the fight would ever even occur. But he's continuing to chirp a lot about Sean O'Malley. Again, it's like another boxer versus MMA fighter. I definitely don't ever see this fight happening. I mean, for sure, if Sean O'Malley goes out there and beats Cheeto, there's no telling what Sean O'Malley's going to try to pivot to do as far as his next fight. Because I can guarantee you he's not trying to fight the next top bantamweight, which would probably be Merab. So I don't know who he's going to fight, where he's going to go. I could probably see the UFC trying to set up a fight between Ilya and Sean O'Malley before Sean O'Malley going to fight Merab. Just being straight up, Because it's kind of like, it's a win-win if Sean O'Malley fights Ilya, because either one of those guys is going to get the win and catapult them. If Merab goes out there and washes Sean O'Malley, nobody, and I do mean nobody except for Merab, wins in that scenario. Not the promotion, not the fans, not anybody. But with all of these boxing matches, one thing I will say, you used to hear these and you used to just groan and be like, oh my gosh, would y'all stop with trying to go in there in a boxing match, a MMA fighter trying to go in a boxing match and beat a boxer at their own game. But I will say, and this is the last point I'm going to make on this video, that Francis Ngannou Tyson Fury fight kind of changed up some things on that front. Like, don't be so fast nowadays to just totally be like, oh, the MMA fighter's going to go in there and get washed. Most of the time they will, but every now and then, as we saw with Frank the Tank, Francis Ngannou, every now and then, an MMA fighter comes along that's a little bit different, and a pro boxer doesn't take them as seriously, and you see a different outcome. But as far as Ryan Garcia versus Sean O'Malley, I don't never see that fight happening. Neither fighter is... Ryan Garcia is definitely known well in the boxing world, but I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't say Sean O'Malley, in my opinion, is nowhere near as known as like a Francis Ngannou. So I don't see them being able to make that fight work. Like, Sean O'Malley is definitely known, but Sean O'Malley needs to go out there, wash Cheeto, and then probably do one other big, huge fight in a big, huge arena like Madison Square Gardens or someplace like that. Sell it out for that to, in my opinion, for him to translate into a star that you might be able to see against Ryan Garcia. So nevertheless, man, just wanted to drop in with you guys. It's been a slow week and there ain't a whole lot of traffic coming out of this Gaziev Rosenstrike card. So just wanted to come back, drop off another little video for you guys. You know what I'm saying? We are, it's on Thursday, so tomorrow we got the weigh-ins for this dumpster fire UFC Apex card, UFC Vegas 87. So just wanted to drop in, kind of give y'all a little news update, couple of things I was seeing. Nevertheless, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about the things I talked about. Do you think Ryan Garcia would ever step in a boxing ring with Sean O'Malley? Or what about the other fights? You think any of those will ever happen? Those of you all who watch bare knuckle fighting, are you excited about Mike Perry's next fight? Let me know. And once again, I do want to thank everyone for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I check you next time. Peace.